Greetings. My name is Molina, and I'm the host of the Life Puro podcast. Today, I have Brian McGee, who is the Crown Heads sales rep for our territory. So with that, I'd like to welcome Brian. Brian, how are you?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Excited to have you here. So
I've been wanting to do this since the last time I was here when you were doing it with
Michael.
with
Michael
Herclox.
Herclox.
With Michael. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when that. I forgot about that. You were saying that when we were done, we left the room, we walked into the main lounge, and we saw you sitting with our Davidoff sales rep, Garrett. So you were waiting there.
Yeah.
So yeah, now it's your turn. So
Now it's my turn.
You're in the hot seat. Yeah, no pressure.
No pressure at all.
Yeah. So how's the drive today?
Rainy.
I know.
Yeah,
huh?
there's all kinds of flash flood warnings, and the bridge was crowded, but no standing water, nothing serious. I think Lafayette. I'm staying in Lafayette, so there's some kind of flash flood warning there. But
So you left Lafayette this morning?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't take the interstate here, did you?
Yeah. So
man.
it was hour and 20.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah, normally what's 57 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, traffic's not an issue, but
right.
That's
Till you get to the
always an
bridge,
issue.
then it stops. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, man, it's been the last few days. Just this rain's crazy here, so we've had flash floods, and it's deterred our sales too. So,
Well, I bet. So I was in Lafayette yesterday. They were telling me that because of the drought last year, you guys lost. Like everybody's losing their crawdad.
oh man, yeah,
Like a guy could go out and normally get
crawfish,
7
yeah.
bags, and he only gets like a half a bag. And Renee was telling me it was $5 a bag raw, straight off the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was, pricing was going crazy.
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I'm just checking.
Yeah, but so it's apparently it's going to be a horrible crawfish season this year.
Yeah,
But now you're getting it, and they're making up with the rain. I mean, it's going crazy. It's rained since I've got down here.
yeah. That's interesting. You mentioned that. I mean, the drought, for people who don't know, at least in Louisiana, I'm sure it was bad in Texas this past summer of 23. We had a drought, and it adversely impacted a lot of Louisiana's crops. And there were other factors that or effects that came about of it. It was so hot here, we saw our sales kind of dip more than usual, for
Right.
cigar sales at least.
Yeah.
Because as you know, I mean, cigar sales are really directly correlated to the weather.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we had I think it was our 3rd hottest summer in Texas history. And it was, nobody wanted to go outside and smoke cigars.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was, it definitely, you felt it. You definitely felt it.
Yeah. But before we delve in, so just to repeat, you are our regional sales manager for Crown Heads, and you offer me a little lineup of some of the cigars in your portfolio. You want to maybe just go through these 3 and then maybe recommend which one I should go with?
Yeah, so I'm currently smoking the Mil Diaz, which is our still one of our number 1 selling cigar for our company. Habana wrapper. It's a very unique blend. It's Peruvian, Costa Rican, and Nicaraguan tobacco in the filler. There's not another cigar in your humidor that tastes like that.
Oh,
it's very unique. It's medium bodied, delicious.
I didn't realize there's Peruvian in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Peruvian and Costa Rican.
Okay.
The Patissier, just broadleaf Maduro, Nicaraguan filler, that chocolate, creamy, sweet earth, medium plus, just delicious Maduro cigar. And then the Osgener family Aramas, San Andreas wrapper. You get that spicy coffee, a little bit of cedar on the finish, medium plus, maybe medium full, depending on your palate. One of my favorite San Andreas blends out there. It's really good. So I'm smoking a Mil Diaz.
I'll do that then too. Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Yeah.
So we can kind of maybe.
And plus, it's
compare.
a little early, so it's a good.
Yeah.
It's still a good morning cigar.
Yeah, we're filming this in the morning for anyone keeping track. And we record this podcast any time of day. It doesn't matter. Just whenever we have guests availability. So I think you're probably going to be our first morning guest. Yeah.
Nice.
So pretty cool. But yeah, with that, I mentioned that because you're right. I like to start off, especially with a milder cigar, or not as like complex as like say this Bosphorus.
Right.
For sure. So can you give me like a little brief rundown of Crown Heads while I light up? Like what's Crown Heads about?
So Crown Heads, we basically started in 2010. We go back quite a long way, back when my days at CAO when the Osgener family owned CAO before it sold, and when they sold and eventually ended up under STG, Mike Conder and John Huber stayed in Nashville and started Crown Heads. I think we just hired employee number 9.
Okay.
Maybe 10, but we're 9 people strong. I cover Texas, Oklahoma, Wichita, Kansas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. So I got a pretty big territory. But John is he's the one who comes up with all the stories, all the cigars, all the marketing. He's the genius behind all the blends. We're very fortunate, Crown Heads, that we have cigar makers like Ernie Carrillo, my father family. Drew Estate at one point was making cigars for us. Pichardo, Tabacalera Pichardo. And now we're working, La Patissier's made at the Noxa factory.
Okay.
So we've got some great factories that make our cigars for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, Crown Heads, we've been around 2010. 4 Kicks was our original first cigar we ever shipped. Last year was the La Vereda was our latest release, and we just announced the Mil Diaz Maduro and Connecticut Broadleaf Maduro as a core line release. That'll be shipping next month.
It's going to be a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper?
Connecticut Broadleaf.
Even with the difficulty in sourcing that leaf right now? Wow.
Yes. We're very, it's because as all of us sales guys, the first question we asked was, Connecticut?
Yeah. That's like nerd level kind of insider.
But it is definitely Connecticut Broadleaf. It's going to be made, I believe it's still being made at Tabacalera Pichardo.
Okay.
And is due to ship. We're going to do it in 3 sizes, the Edmundo, the Sublime, and the Topaz sizes. And it'll be the same price point as the Mil Diaz Natural.
Okay, cool.
And I don't have an exact ship date, but sometime in February.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coming right up.
Very soon.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll have to check into that because I love Mil Diaz personally. And I didn't realize that the anatomy was so unique. Peruvian and Costa Rican filler.
We've done a couple limited Mil Diaz with a Sumatra Maduro.
Okay.
And those were LE releases. They were not core line. But so the core line release is definitely going to be a new blend with the broadleaf wrapper. But yeah, the Mil Diaz is a very unique. When you tell people that's Costa Rican and Peruvian, they kind of look at you. Yeah.
Like unconventional countries, really.
The nerds go ooh,
Yeah.
and then people that don't go, what's that? And, but it's a great selling point, and it's one of those cigars when people smoke it for the first time, you kind of see their eyes. They get it. They get the flavor, and like I said, there's not a lot of I dare say that you could go into your humidor and there wouldn't be another cigar that you would find that tastes like that.
No, I can verify for that because for me, it's very like distinct. It's hard to recommend an alternative or another similar one.
A lot of brands, ours included.
Yeah.
If they like one, you especially with
there's crossover, right?
They like La Patissier. I'm like, you got to smoke La Creme. But with Mil Diaz, there's not a lot of places you can send them to because it's just so unique to me.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
And what's the story behind Mil Diaz? Because that, with the Latin or Spanish translation,
right? So the M, which you could say is Mil Diaz, but it's also the Roman numeral for 1,000. Mil Diaz translates to 1,000 days.
Yeah.
And it was the anniversary of our 1,000-day relationship with Tabacalera Pichardo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I love how just the design of the band looks as well. Because, besides the blend, I like to look at the artwork and the packaging. So, yeah, it's been one of my favorite, newer releases, I guess, from Crown Heads.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been an account with Crown Heads really since the beginning.
Yes.
I think we tried to get on as soon as the announcement was made, but I think John and company kind of only really reserved it for a very few.
We did.
But I think we got the second wave or third wave. Yeah.
We did to kind of like Route 66. We did 66 accounts in the beginning.
Okay.
And that because we were only shipping 4 kicks. That was the only thing we had. So we started with a very small small group to get it out there and to try to generate some buzz and then grow it from there. And Headley Grange hit after that. And that's when we started opening it up to more and more shops.
And I think like a lot of cigar nerds appreciate the limited editions that Crown Heads puts out. To me, it's one of those companies, or Crown Heads is one of those companies whose limited editions have this buzz and like excitement behind it. So it's an interesting strategy. Crown Heads releases, the way they release their limited editions and, makes it engaging and exciting for the end consumer.
Yeah. And one positive part of that is a lot of the times the limited edition, especially when we do La Creme or we do a Mil Diaz, and even Mule Kick, it drives business back to the core brands.
Yeah.
So somebody who's never had our cigar before, but you recommend the Mil Diaz Maduro, well, when they come back, they say, well, here's the core line. You can try that. Or La Creme, when we do the Bellicoso Finos in a limited size, it drives back to the core line sizes that we do. The only exception would be obviously Las Calaveras, but that's
an annual now,
right? That's our unicorn every year that everybody kind of anticipates. And I have, I joined Crown Heads at the end of 2014, so the first ever Las Calaveras had already shipped.
Okay,
because of its popularity, in about a month, I'm going to start getting text messages. I'm going to start getting instant messages. I'm going to start getting phone calls. What's the blend? What color is the band? There's actually groups of people that place bets to guess what the band and the color is going to be that year on Las Calaveras. It's crazy.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
This past year or last year was what, the orange?
Yes, orange was broadleaf. Yeah, we did Connecticut broadleaf.
I think it reminded me of like the Buc-ee's color.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was like on purpose. Or...
Of course, everybody in Texas is like Longhorns. Yeah, but
Longhorn.
Longhorns. But everywhere else, they thought it was Buc-ee's or something. Yeah.
And speaking of Buc-ee's, you were the first sales rep on the road to introduce me, a Louisiana boy, to like this Buc-ee's concept.
I was their number one unpaid salesperson.
You are. Yeah. I'm sure other reps might want to take claim to that.
Yeah.
But no, for me, like, at least with me, you were the first one. And I just felt like, man, this is a interesting like cult.
It's the greatest place on earth. And it's not a truck stop. No 18-wheelers are allowed. It is the Walmart of convenience stores. So a guy that spends as much time on the road as I do, I drive 50 to 60,000 miles a year. So I'm on the road a lot. 170 nights in a hotel. When you can go to a place that has 20 fully walled, fully doored stalls, bathrooms, and has an average of 50 urinals in the bathroom, and they have an employee that only job is to keep that bathroom clean,
right?
You're gonna seek them out, you know. And plus, there could be 300 people in there, and you're in and out in 2 minutes because they have 25 people running. I mean, it's just I always call it the greatest place on earth. It's just a very cool place.
So for people maybe listening outside of Buc-ee's markets that have no idea what we're talking about, it's basically just to kind of deconstruct it, like a grand scale.
If you're going to break it down to its basic core, it's a convenience store. Yeah. It's a gas station convenience store, but it's much more than that. There's some of them you can go buy GoPros, you can buy Oakley sunglasses, you can buy. Walked into one. I think it was in Ennis. They were selling drones. Wow. Every barbecue rub you can think of, they sell. They sell camping, hunting, deer corn, smokers. You name it,
right?
They sell it.
Yeah.
On top of sodas and snacks and having a bathroom and having their barbecue. I mean, their barbecue for a convenience store, their brisket is actually really good.
Yeah.
You're not walking into one of these legendary Texas barbecue joints. You're walking into a convenience store and getting a hell of a brisket sandwich. I mean, and their brisket or their breakfast burritos. I mean, everything there is just outstanding. And their jerky bar is, I think it's, 100 feet long. So
you'll be proud of me. Since I last saw you, I had my first Buc-ee's experience or trip in October. The one in Alabama, maybe by Fairhope
Okay, yeah.
on I-10.
Yes. The
Yeah,
one out
going
by
eastbound?
Leeds near, it's kind of out near Talladega almost.
I'm sure you've been there, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How
Let-
many have you gone?
Real quick.
Okay.
That one in Leeds.
Okay.
So I now cover Alabama.
Okay.
I booked my hotel room. I was looking for a spot in Birmingham, and
Uh-huh.
I see Leeds is really close to Birmingham. And as I'm driving down the interstate, I knew they had opened Buc-ee's, and I see it. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, wait, my exit is the same as Buc-ee's. Well, this will be cool. I turn and my hotel. So the room I got, again, I'm geeking out because I'm a Buc-ee's now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
When I opened my window in my room, Buc-ee's was right there. I had full view
Like
of
a
the
temple.
Buc-ee's. Yeah,
Yeah.
the temple. I mean, the light was bright.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so.
That's so funny.
That was my first place in the morning.
You ever watch Seinfeld?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Remember the episode with Kramer and the Kenny Rogers chicken
Oh,
shop that opened up across the street from him in his
Right.
room, and like the light would
The
glare
light-
in.
that was-
It's kind of
that
like what
was
was
it.
yeah, that
That
was
was
Buc-ee's
it.
for you, huh?
So
That's so funny.
until they started until they opened the ones in Tennessee, I had been to every Buc-ee's and then they opened the one in Tennessee, and now there's so many that I haven't been to all of them. So, but at one point, I had been to even this small. They actually in just outside of Austin. There's a couple. There's one outside of Houston, and there's one in the hill country outside of Austin.
Okay.
That is it's actually looks like a convenience store. It's a very small Buc-ee's.
Oh,
It's
okay.
the original. They weren't before they got to where they are now. It
Yeah.
was 6 pumps and a small
Just
convenience
getting
store.
started. Yeah.
Getting started. So I've been to those two originals, and then they started going.
Yeah.
The Montgomery one near College Station was the first kind of big one, and then I think the one they're getting ready to open in Hillsboro is going to have 144 gas pumps.
What? 144 gas pumps? That's insane.
The one in Mesquite, I think, has 88. And there's sometimes you pull in, you're waiting
Yeah, that's
for
insane.
gas. Yeah.
Well, so I've passed by that Buc-ee's in Alabama multiple times because every year, I think for like the last 5 or 6 years, me and a group of friends go down to the Keys. Like we drive from New Orleans down to the Florida Keys, and we pass that Buc-ee's, and like every time it looks crowded. I'm like, oh,
That's the
I
thing.
can't do it.
Go in. You're not, unless you use the bathroom, you're in and out in
Yeah.
3 or 4 minutes.
well, that's what I realized in October. I went with the family down to Disney World, and we passed by, and my brother, who lives, my middle brother, I don't know if you know him, Carlos. He lives in Australia. He wanted to go to Buc-ee's. He hadn't seen it. He heard about it. So we're like, all right, let's just go. Take the little kids.
Right.
Man, when I walked in there, I immediately understood like what you talk about, what other like cult like followers talk
and
about.
they have their all brand name stuff as
Yeah.
well, which is really good. The
Beaver Nuggets.
Beaver Nuggets.
I had to get that because of you.
Yeah, it's like corn puffs. I mean,
Yeah.
you can eat them like cereal.
Yep, that's exactly what I thought. Like, man, you could pour this in a bowl and pour milk on.
Yeah.
Pour
Yeah.
milk on it. Man, no, but it's an incredible phenomenon in business. And I don't know if you know much about that business. Is it private?
Yeah, so
It's not publicly
the
held.
guys that started it, one of the owners' last name is Beaver, so that's why the mascot's a beaver. I believe, I want to say it's 2 guys, and I believe both of them went to Texas A&M, if I'm not mistaken. That's why they all opened up in that area first.
Okay.
But yeah, it's family owned. And if you next time you go to one, look at their. They usually have like we're hiring for these
I
positions.
saw that, and the salaries too.
Salaries, benefits. You know, it's one of those places that people start working there and they don't leave because they get treated so well.
That's why I immediately like sensed that looking at that signage.
Yeah.
And had even more admiration for that company because it seems like they get it in terms of creating a culture
Right.
for their staff where they want to retain them. It's not just a transitory kind of job or temporary job. They try to hire people for the long term.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's something that, we strive for is when we hire staff, we don't want just someone to last a few months. Like we're trying to create a potential career
And
path
the
for
longer
them.
they stay, you actually save money because it costs more to train somebody new.
Yeah.
And if you're constantly turning people over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, can you give me or shed some light into like the typical average like cigar store, do you see a lot of employee turnover? Is that the norm in our industry, or what do you see?
There. I would dare say it's almost like 50-50.
Okay.
You've got a lot of shops where people have been there. I know who's going to be there every single time I walk in.
Yeah.
And then there's some shops that it's going to be somebody different every time I walk in. So it's to me, it's like a 50-50 split.
Okay.
Obviously everybody runs their business different.
Right.
And, some just have more turnover than others. But there's some shops I walk in and I've been calling on them now. I'm starting my 20th year as a rep, and there's still people that I know I'm going to see when I walk into their store because they're going to be there every time I walk in. Yeah. And again, there's shops I walk into that I'm going to have to reintroduce myself and, get to know somebody new.
And that's maybe like one of the frustrating parts is like you got to start again, and not that you hate it, but it's like it just takes a little more time.
Yeah, it does. And look, and for me, and I'm being completely selfish here as a rep, but if I get to know somebody and they're a fan of my cigars and I know they're selling my cigars and I'm not there, and then they leave, I'm like, well, am I going to get that again? So it's sometimes when you lose some of them, it does hurt because you lose your kind of ambassador.
You lose like your Buc-ee's fanboy, right?
Yeah, because you're not. Obviously, we can't be in the store, and my territory's so big, so I can't rotate through as often as some of the other reps. So to have an employee like that, it helps me. Yeah. Again, I'm being totally selfish here.
No, but that's a very valid point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen that in other shops, even with ourselves. Like, if I'm a fanboy of Company A, I'm more likely to push.
It makes a difference.
I try to spread the love around, but
you can't help it.
I know
you can't help it.
We just get kind of not lazy, but we get into the same rotation. It's just what we know, we're comfortable with.
Right.
But it's a challenge in that regard, especially if you lose some staff member in some shop that was a fanboy of yours.
Right.
And it's like sales can adversely be impacted.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But no, going back to Buc-ee's, the first time I visited was this past October, and I got it. I realized and I was thinking of you too. I was like, yeah, I can understand why Brian's he loves this place. But it's cool. They have a lot of their own packaged.
Oh yeah.
Private brands. And
yeah.
And it's just like you said, run well like an oiled machine.
When you walk in, there has been, I can count the number of times on my hand that I've waited maybe more than 5 minutes to check out to get back out to my car.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, it's even when you walk up and there's a line, you're going to move
it's
through
be
it
fast,
quick. I'll tell you my two greatest Buc-ee moments in my life.
In your Buc-ee's career?
My Buc-ee's career. Texas Cigar Fest that Ron Lassero used to run with Serious Cigars. As a rep, I hate wasting a day driving. So Texas Cigar Fest would end Saturday night around 10. Most people spend the night. I would drive home on a Sunday.
Okay.
I hate wasting that day driving on Sunday. So I'll leave at 11 o'clock and just drive home. It's only a 4-hour drive, but there's been times I've finished events in New Orleans at 10 o'clock at night.
You go back?
And drove the 8.5 hours because I hate wasting that Sunday
I know.
driving.
Yeah.
So I had Miguel, I think, with me. I plan on taking him to the airport the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
We're at a shop. We're all smoking and telling stories. A bunch of the people, the reps and principals were at this lounge hanging out. It's about midnight. I'm like, you know what, Miguel, can I take you to the hotel? And do you mind taking an Uber to the airport tomorrow morning? I'd just rather, and I like driving at night anyway. Yeah. So long story short, I drop him off at the hotel about 1 a.m. I head back to Dallas. Mm-hmm. Well, it's an hour and a half from Houston. I know all of them. It's an hour and a half from Houston to Buc-ee's there in Montgomery.
Yeah.
So I think I pulled in 2:30 in the morning. I am the only truck getting gas. All the pumps are empty. I walk into the store. I'm the only customer. Every employee turns and looks at me and goes, "Welcome to Buc-ee's."
Oh, wow.
And I just start skipping through the store. I have this entire store to myself. Yeah. Skip over to the drinks, get me a drink, skip over and get me a sandwich.
Oh, man, that's incredible.
I had the whole store.
Yeah.
So that was one. But the best one, I did an event in Temple, Texas. I get done. There's a Buc-ee's in Temple. I'm getting gas. I go inside to get a drink. And I'm walking to the line to pay. And I hear this, somebody taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around, and it's the manager of Buc-ee's.
Okay.
And he goes, "Are you Brian McGee with Crown Heads?" I went,
What?
"Yes, I am." He goes,
"What?
I love your cigars." I'm like, "I love your store."
Yeah.
Like,
What?
and I geek out.
Yeah,
I'm like, "Dude,
he's geeking out about you, and you're
and I'm
geeking
geeking
out
about him." So I pay for my stuff. I go, "Come out to my truck." I'm like giving him hats. I'm giving him cigars.
Oh,
I'm
man.
like, it was to have a Buc-ee's manager go, "Are you Brian with Crown Heads?" I'm like, "Yes, I am."
That's incredible. That's so cool. That's that's just, people might be hearing this like, man, these are a couple nerds.
Exactly.
But you know what?
Everybody
the
hearing
passion,
this,
you know?
there's going to be 2 people who go, "I get that."
Yeah.
And the rest of them, I don't understand it at all.
Nerds.
Nerds.
Yeah. No, but I love that. It's just the passion, right? Like,
Right.
That's what I admire. Like throughout the years working in a cigar store, talking to clients, like I get excited when they're excited about whatever makes them passionate.
Right.
It could be something as mundane as being involved in corrugated packaging.
Right.
If they have like a love of that, and if they're nerding out,
Right.
I admire that. Just no matter what the industry is.
I now have a McKinney, a Buc-ee's in McKinney 9 minutes from my house.
Oh no!
And there's an exit for Buc-ee's Boulevard.
Don't they try to like name the streets now, like for the new Buc-ee's? Yeah. Did you know Louisiana was supposed to get
You
a
were supposed
Buc-ee's
to get the first
here in
Buc-ee's
town,
outside of Texas, in
like somewhere right here in Baton Rouge.
right off of I-10.
I thought it was I-12.
Or 12.
Yeah.
Just outside the city limits.
Yep.
And they ended up going to Florida.
What happened? Do you know what happened?
I can only tell you rumors.
Yeah.
Okay,
rumors.
so
because I'll tell you my rumor, like what I've heard.
What I heard was the state of Louisiana wanted
little payola, schmola,
And Bucky said, because their goal was to have I-10 and 12 covered from Texas to Florida.
Yeah.
To have that supply line,
Yeah, because this I-10, I-12 intersection right here in Baton Rouge is important. Yeah.
Right. And they picked Baton Rouge as the first outside of Texas. Yeah. And because, again, that's what I've heard. They ended up going to, I think it was Daytona or Panama, somewhere in Florida.
Yeah, somewhere in Florida. Okay.
Yeah. And then it was Alabama.
Yep.
And now there's 2 in Alabama.
Yeah. And
they just opened one. Actually, they just opened a 3rd one in Alabama up near Madison, Huntsville.
Okay.
There's the cigar room. Donald Waddell has 3 shops. He has one in Muscle Shoals, one in Madison, and one in Gunnersville, Alabama. And going from Madison to his Muscle Shores, it's about an hour, 10-minute drive, but it takes you right past that Buc-ee, the 3rd Buc-ee's that they opened. It's brand new.
Gee whiz.
Yeah.
I'm sure that can't hurt him, right?
Oh no,
just getting that traffic diverted there, and man, it's just when I heard that rumor, the Buc-ee's skipping here, it just reminded me about the stories about Walt Disney. I don't know if you've heard those stories.
Yeah, because originally it was supposed to be in New Orleans.
Yep. Yeah, it was supposed to be, I think, somewhere in Slidell or New Orleans East. Yeah. Somewhere in that area. So for people who don't know, supposedly Walt Disney wanted to open up the Magic Kingdom here in Louisiana way back when. But the same thing happened. You had the politicians come out the woodwork.
Centrally to the U.S.
Yeah, it checked off the boxes that Disney was looking for, right? Warm weather typically throughout the year. I guess he was kind of looking at swampy land. I guess he could develop or drain, get on the cheap. But once again, our politicians are, good old boys. We're looking for the handout.
Right.
And he said, you know what? No, I'm just going to go to Florida. So it just happened again with Buc-ee's. And, I always get frustrated. Like, Louisiana should be like, oh, look, I love Louisiana. I'm not, talking bad about them. It's my home state. But it's just frustrating that we continue to regress where we should be as big, in my opinion, as Texas or Florida. Right. Because of the resources we have here.
Well, look at all the movies that are filmed here. I mean, you guys got a lot of pub because of that. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just something gets in the way of progress, and we keep regressing, Right. So it's just frustrating. And but I did hear that they're going to open up Buc-ee's, I think, up in I-20 near Monroe. Have you heard that?
Yeah. So it's either going to be outside of Shreveport, Bossier City, or halfway in Monroe on the way to Mississippi. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hopefully Louisiana learned its lesson and can be more business friendly. Don't look for the payout right away.
All right. So I ask you a question.
Okay.
So regarding Louisiana.
Okay.
So interesting to me as an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the few states where LSU dominates the entire state.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
other competition.
Right.
And as an outsider, I look at Louisiana. There's two parts to Louisiana. There's Louisiana, Lafayette to New Orleans, and then there's East Texas, which is Shreveport.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
You being living down here, do you claim Shreveport as part of Louisiana, or do you consider that just East Texas?
Culturally, they are closer to Texas culture, right? But I mean, I don't have any ill will towards like the north part of Louisiana.
Sure.
Because the way I viewed it, and I've said it, I'm sure on the podcast, you know, I view Louisiana like Spain. You know, my affinity for Spain and having traveled there. If you look at Spain, each little region has its own little culture, but it's still Spain too. So like you have that kind of dynamic. So I don't have any ill will or any negative view, but yeah, I mean, there's a reason why most people in Shreveport or northern Louisiana are Dallas Cowboys fans.
Right. Exactly.
You know,
yeah.
And not the Saints.
Right.
And it is different, but I mean, I enjoy in my time that I've it's been a little, you know, short time that I spend there, but you know, it is kind of a cool, different, you know, area and setup.
Right.
And I used to travel there a lot more when I used to work at Imperial Trading.
Right.
When I would go on wholesale calls to those casinos up there to sell cigars. And I'd spent some time just, you know, crashing the night in that town and got a sense for it. And it is different. Like coming from the, you know, New Orleans, that's where I grew up. It's kind of a culture shock, but I never, like, to me, that was never negative. I like exploring new philosophies or areas and just the layout, you know, the landscape. But to me, I think that should be something, a source of pride for all Louisianians. Like, you have the New Orleans culture, you have the Acadiana, Lafayette culture, Baton Rouge, Monroe, Houma, Lake Charles. And yeah, we can kind of be like sibling rivalry where we kind of poke fun at each other, but at the end, like, we're all for Louisiana.
Right.
You know? But it's just frustrating, like, when the politics hinder business progress. This has been a frustration of mine personally, being in the cigar trade. I know that Louisiana gets skipped over a lot by a lot of manufacturers because we have punitive excise taxes. We don't have a lot of shops because we're also poor, and consumers. So everyone, and look, rightly so. If you're a small, especially a small manufacturer that only has finite resources and time, you're going to focus on the Texases of the world or the Floridas of the world because it's just bigger population. It makes more sense. You know, you can make more of an impact.
Right.
You know, with fewer, you know, shorter time invested in those areas, you know?
Yeah. We do have the show next year, 2 years in New Orleans.
Yeah, that's right.
Coming up. Yeah. This will be the last year in Vegas.
Yeah.
And then 2 years in New Orleans.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. But hopefully with this governor we have, he's pro cigar. The legislature being typically pro cigar, hopefully we can take this opportunity to kind of maybe even progress with our industry. And, you know, my dream would be to see that 20% excise tax gone, you know, or at least let's compromise. Let's bring it back down
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that hurts us. I mean, if you look at our MSRPs, and we get this all the time, especially Texans that come over here, and we have some of the most competitive prices in the state, we're still like 10% above what they're used to. And they tell us, like, man, why are y'all so expensive? And you know, we got to explain, like, there's excise taxes state by state. And that's why, you know, we're kind of put at a disadvantage.
They need to look at Arkansas because at one point Arkansas had a 69% OTP tax, and it put almost every shop in Arkansas out of business. And they finally rolled it back to about 50 cents a cigar tax wise. And now that state there's shops opening everywhere, and that revenue is starting to come back in for the state because of that.
I remember that. Yeah, when that was a very punitive excise tax. It pretty much killed the brick and mortar landscape there.
Yeah.
But fortunately, like, rational heads prevailed. They're like, you know what? Let's go back, at least compromise with a cap. I mean, I would love a cap.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
And, you know, I'm very curious to see, like, what kind of revenue does the state bring in from cigar excise taxes? It's got to be so small. Like, why don't you just, let's experiment, like, get rid of it, see what happens.
See what happens. Yeah.
I would bet any good bit of money to see that the effects would be more sales, maybe even more shops. which I would love. I don't care about more shops opening up. That to me, it would create like a Tampa environment, right?
Sure.
You create
Sure.
this culture of cigar consumption, and it's a norm. So I think it increase the pie.
Yeah, you got
Not just divide the pie.
You got to make it bigger.
Yep,
you got to
exactly.
make it bigger. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So doing things like that to make it to where you want business to invest in an area where it can benefit them. You know, I mean, that's what I talked to the Fishers an episode or two ago about how, to me, it's impressive to see even now manufacturers or importers basing out of Texas,
Right.
like the Oscar Vidarises of the world or the Roma Crafts.
Right.
Before it used to be just like in South Florida.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Or in the East Coast, like
Well,
in New York.
the Finks started it all. The Finks, they started their manufacturing in Texas back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, I think. And the story is that the reason why cigar tax in Texas is 1.1 cent a stick is because of the Finks.
Are you kidding?
They worked with every Texas legislator and said, as long as there's a manufacturer in Texas, that tax on cigars can't be more than a penny a stick.
Wow.
And they're the ones that made that happen.
I didn't know that.
Now, pipe tobacco is almost 100% in Texas, but cigar tax is 1.1 cent a stick.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know that's a legendary family. I don't know them personally, but I've heard about them via reputation and their long history and story.
Yeah.
I've heard that the founder of Finks, he used to be a cigar roller at a New Orleans cigar factory, at the Hernsheim Cigar Factory.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
And I only know that a few episodes ago, like the first of the year we did in 2024, I actually read an article that I co-wrote back in 2007. I actually did research on the New Orleans cigar making scene in like the late 1800s to like 1920s. And in my research, I saw that connection with Finks. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So I wonder if the present family even knows that. I'm sure they do.
I'm sure they do. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a New Orleans connection between the Finks.
Well, I definitely want to ask him about that the next time I see him.
Yeah.
I'll talk to Bill about it.
And if I'm wrong, I mean, just call me or correct me like, oh, you just made that up. But I didn't know that. That's pretty cool that family was responsible for, or at least being, contributing to that low excise tax in Texas. Wow. That's pretty cool. And they still make
Travis Club.
Yeah, the Travis
Club. They still have their
catalog
catalog they send out every month. They still make Travis Club. So when we do the Finks Lone Star Cigar Bash, they have all of our manufacturers with the multi vendor event. You have True Estate and Crown Heads and everybody there, but then they have their own table with all their product on it that they're selling as well. And when you walk into their humidors, half the humidor is for General, Altadis, and us, and then the other half of the humidor is all their product that they make, all the Travis Club and everything they make. And he just opened a new headquarters, and one of their meeting rooms, the wall, that room's kind of like a museum, and it's got all of the original equipment and 1 cent a stick advertising and all the molds and all that stuff that they used to use when they first started. And they've got it all on display in this meeting room. It's just, if you're a history nerd, especially with cigars, to see all that is pretty cool.
Wow. Is that just in their office, or is that open to the public?
Antonio. You'd have to have an appointment
to see that.
I wish they would let people in there to see it because it's very cool.
Well, and it's kind of like I don't know I'm sure you follow, because you're heavy on social media and posting, and you're very interactive with like the cigar community, which I think is cool. Like, you're a real cigar nerd. With what JC Newman's doing with their factory in Tampa, like they redeveloped it these last few years, and they're offering tours.
Right.
So that's kind of cool.
It's very effective. It is very effective.
And to me, it helps the industry out, right? Not just that one company, but it underscores to like even non-smokers or non-cigar people in this country that we have a history, in this country, right? And so it's cool to see the Newmans continue, the Finks continue that. I'm sure there are others in this country. I just don't know.
Right.
I know Jersey was huge with cigar manufacturing, or at least like the Princeton area,
right? With
like a lot of the Cuban immigrants at one point when the revolution occurred. So like you find little pockets still,
right,
of the cigar culture still trying to hold on, But But no, that's pretty cool. But going back to like our history, I remember, I don't know what year we met. I started the cigar industry as a career in 2003.
Right.
And I was working, like I said, for Imperial Trading. I think I met you when you were our CAO rep back then, right?
Right. Yeah, I started with CAO in 2005.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember your dad was managing
the Don Juans.
the Don Juans. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's when I first met your family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
So you were with CAO when it was Osner owned
When the Osner
for like what? They sold in like 2007?
2010. Yeah.
Oh, it was 2010?
Well, 2008 Henry Winterman's
right.
bought them out.
Oh yeah.
And then eventually STG bought Henry Winterman's. And 2010 is when STG took it and they were putting it under General's umbrella.
Yeah.
So I was there 2005, 2010.
Okay.
And then
you moved over to
I moved to Toronto.
yeah.
And then 2010 to 2014, he sells to
Yeah,
General.
to General.
And I'm like, what's going on? So
this
my
track
running
record
joke was,
yeah.
you want to sell your business? Hire me. It'll be sold in 5 years.
Right, to STG.
Right, right.
Wow.
And then so I'm starting my 10th year with Crown Heads.
Okay.
In October, but I'm technically starting my 10th year with them.
And
September.
you were their first sales rep.
Wes was their very first sales rep.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
he was there. He kind of covered the entire country.
Okay.
And I was their second hire, and that's when we did Yellow Rose. Came out with Yellow Rose because I was in Texas.
Yeah, that's cool.
And
explain that. What's the deal with Yellow Rose?
So we're based in Nashville, Tennessee. Okay. So they came out with the Tennessee Waltz.
Mm-hmm.
We're based in Nashville. Let's show love to all the accounts that are in Tennessee in our home state.
Yeah.
Let's do a cigar that's only made for Tennessee.
Yeah.
Well, as we've been talking about, for most manufacturers, Texas or Florida is usually their number one sales state. So when they hired me and I live in the Dallas area, well, let's do one for the state of Texas since we have a rep there now. Let's do the Yellow Rose of Texas. And that's one thing I love about John, man. He deep dives on some stuff.
I know, he's great.
And gets like Le Creme.
Yeah.
Before he told us, I would have never guessed where that name came from, that it was actually a person's name that created the chocolate souffle, right? So so he does the deep dive on the Tennessee Waltz. He does the deep dive on Yellow Rose of Texas. And then as we start growing, we eventually did the Buckeye Land because his wife is from Ohio and her maiden name was Land.
What?
So we did Buckeye Land.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
There's always a twist with John. There's always a little twist there.
He's like an author like this.
Yeah.
There's always a thematic connection.
Right.
To me, that's just cool. Like that just for it sounds bad like to call it nerdery, but I mean we're nerds here,
Yeah.
So
and the thing I love about John is he's got that attitude of the struggling artist. You know, he's the thing I know it's genuine in him, but if he were to give you a cigar and you smoked it and you would, I don't like it. To John, you're telling John, I don't like you.
Oh,
he can't separate, right? But that's also what drives him. And once it's a driving force in him to make a better cigar, a better story, a better whatever to keep creating like that. And it's very interesting.
And I always wondered that, like you bring up this notion of like when people are sampling any cigar, right? You and I both know for every cigar there's a fan and a critic of any blend,
of course,
right?
Of course.
And you're not going to satisfy 100% of the market with any one blend, right? I mean, I've heard of people, give me their negative critiques on Fuente or Padron.
You
name
just
it.
kind of blink at them, but okay, it's your
It's
cigar,
opinion,
your opinion, right.
But you would hope as a manufacturer that you get more positives than negatives, to be a sustainable business model. But no, I've noticed that with like a lot of artists, it's really almost an affront to their talent or
very few can separate.
Right.
All right, you don't like it, that's cool.
That's fine, yeah.
But the ones that it's a drive inside that's like, all right, he doesn't like me. How can I make him like me? What do I need to make better, or what do I, what can I improve on?
And what I would say, if as a manufacturer or blender, I would ask that person, all right, what don't you like about this blend? Because maybe it might not be anything wrong with the blend. It's just wrong with your taste. No.
Right.
It's just, some people, I think it's almost like with food taste, right? You've heard of those people that there's that like genetic thing that for some people, there's that food cilantro that tastes like soap.
Oh,
have you heard of that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got a buddy of mine that looks at food as purely fuel. He can go to McDonald's or he can go to the greatest steakhouse in the country, and to him, it's food.
Yeah, it's just calories.
There's
like no art to it. Who cares?
Eat this to keep going. There's no enjoying. There's no flavor. It's just I need to do this so I can keep living.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you might be that kind of person,
right,
telling you that it didn't hit my palate.
Yeah, they're almost like too like numerically viewing things. Like they don't care about the art side of it. They just like, does it meet the caloric intake in, in terms of food like we're discussing. So have you seen an instance where like someone critiques his blend like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've
like
seen
they kind of give the negative.
I wish
you don't have to mention names,
but I just there's one story I would love to tell you, but I can't.
Yeah, I got it.
But it drove the fact home that he's it's hard for him to not take it personal.
Right.
Yeah.
So like when we get samples, I try to look at the blend objectively, right? Will this sell? Will there be more yeses or ringing on the register on this blend? Because there's some blends I personally don't like, but it doesn't mean we wouldn't bring it in.
Right. You can't have everything you like in there.
Yeah.
When I was with CAO and we sold these CAO flavors.
Okay.
I would open new accounts and guys would look at me. Yeah, I'm not going to carry flavors. I'm like, do you not like money?
Right.
Just because you don't like them doesn't mean they're not going to sell like crazy because you brought them in.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big problem for a lot of new stores is they only bring in what they like.
Yeah.
And then if you come in and say, hey, do you carry this? I don't like that. Well, I do, and I'm willing to give you my money for it. But all right, I'll go find somebody else who does.
Yeah, and plus that's like from a business standpoint, you don't want to tell a customer, no, that blend sucks.
Right.
Because now you're basically kind of like the guy negatively critiquing John, like, you don't have any worth. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you like to smoke. I mean, you might lose that customer forever. Like, why would they come back?
Right. Why would they?
If they know they're going to be badgered or braided
right.
or ridiculed for whatever choice they make in their cigars. So, for me, that's a tip I would give out to anyone new in the business, especially if you want to open up a cigar store. Don't just carry what you like. Carry what the market wants.
Your customers are going to tell you what you should carry, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can survive, right? It's about business survival here. So, but no, I love what John has done with the company and, people on board that are an asset to Crown Heads with your just passion for cigars. I think it's only beneficial. But I know going back to like those state exclusives, it became like an annual release that you would offer to other stores nationally.
Yeah, once a year we would offer that. We'd call it our Day of Lawlessness, where we would let everybody order at one time.
Mm-hmm.
But now, so because of the broadleaf issues that everybody's been having, those two were, because the rose and the waltz are the same blend. They're both Connecticut broadleaf, Nicaraguan filler, made at my father.
Okay.
They're just two different sizes. People swear up and down they're two different cigars, but they're not.
Yeah.
John will post a picture on Instagram of the rose and the waltz, and which one do you like better? And it's 50-50 people screaming rose or waltz. And it's like, no matter how much I tell them, it's the same tobacco, same blend. There's no way.
Right.
But
are they different ring gauges?
Different, yeah. So the size
so
does play, it does play a little different, but the tobacco blend is the stuff. But because of the broadleaf issues everybody's been having, they were back ordered for 3 years.
Okay.
We didn't have, I mean, it hurt me because we didn't have them to sell.
Yeah.
But right now, last year, my father reached out to us and said, look, if you want this again, we can keep making it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we turned in an order that we normally don't turn in, and they fulfilled it. So right now we're letting everybody bring it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And going to discussing the My Father cigar operation, I don't think end consumers, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong or if you know this information, it's not easy for an outsider to get contract work through My Father cigars. Like, let's say I want to start a cigar brand. If I don't have a relationship with them, even if I had a relationship, they're probably not incentivized to like, no, I don't want to do work for you.
Well, so let's say you wanted to start a brand.
Mm-hmm.
You would be better off. It comes down to what you just said. Relationship is key.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able. I mean, we never
and especially
would
in our
have,
old world industry, yeah.
right? If John didn't have his friendship with
Pete.
Pete.
Was it Pete? Yeah.
Pete made the introduction to My Father for us, and that never would have happened if he didn't know Pete. It probably never would have been worked with him.
Yeah.
So obviously relationships are key, but B, when you approach somebody with the size of My Father, if you're going, hey, can you make me 5,000 cigars? It's not worth their time to even try to figure out how to make just 5,000 cigars for you because they are making so much.
Yeah.
Or if you go like when we went to Drew Estate, or again, any Ernie Carrillo, I mean, you have to come in with a certain number that makes it worth their time and effort to shut down their production to start your production and then go back to theirs. So what a lot of people do is they find the smaller, like a Pichardo or somebody like that has the room or doesn't have the volume that somebody like My Father's doing, that it's easier for them to, all right, I can do this. You want 5,000 cigars or you want, 10,000 cigars. All right, I can do it on this schedule. Here's how we're going to fit it in. So, yeah, it's definitely, if you approach somebody the size of My Father, it's definitely a lot harder.
Yeah. No, and that to me, I think that's definitely a competitive advantage for crown heads. I've talked to previous guests about, like, what does it take for a shop like us to bring in a new company? Like, what are the factors like that make it compelling enough for me to give you a chance? Because let's be honest, shelf space is a finite commodity.
It's valuable.
Right? And so if that means I'm going to bring in someone new, that means someone else has to go out.
Right. And you can't have it sit and not turn.
Right. Yeah, it's got to turn.
Right.
So does it have demand from the end consumers or enough to warrant me giving a new company a chance? What are the other compelling reasons? And one thing that I necessarily don't like and look at as a disadvantage is if the company we're dealing with doesn't control their own manufacturing. But it's not to say that we wouldn't deal with you.
Right.
But like in John or Crown Heads' case, they partnered up with like very reputable, very quality
That was a
manufacturers.
big leg up for us.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
So that gives you instant
Right.
like credibility, I guess.
Right.
And knowing that your product is going to be consistent, very good.
If I came to you and I was like, yeah, this is made at the Don Nobody factory.
Right.
And
there are a lot of those.
And I didn't have my relationship that I've had with you for so long. You're going to look at me and it better be one hell of a cigar, or there's very little chance that I'm going to get in here, right?
And it might be good. That sample might be great, but are you able to like
because
repeat
of the
that?
factory? You don't know if it's going to be exactly right.
If it's repeatable, right? That blend to be consistent,
right?
Because like one batch might be incredible, that might be your leg in, but if that next batch disappoints that crowd and that shop owner,
right?
Good luck. That'll probably be your last order,
right?
So it's just it's crazy, and that now with, I don't know, I'm sure you keep up with the FDA regulations more than I do. If this thing goes away, we can expect a boom. We're already kind of seeing this, like
we've kind of seen it already.
Yeah, like this new expansion of entries.
Yeah.
I mean, we're already getting calls from these people that have never, they haven't really been in the business. And
and to kind of go back to what you were saying, and I'll ask you this. I feel it's important. Like, so if I came to you with a brand that you've never heard of and never heard of the factory, I tell you a compelling story and you decide to bring it in. Well, it's when your customers come in and buy from you, your reputation's on the line.
Yep.
So if you sell them a cigar that's all right, so they buy it, that first batch was phenomenal, and hey, we want more of this, so you reorder, and that second batch doesn't live up to it. Well, now your reputation's on the line as well. And I don't think a lot of people factor that in when they work with, or a customer to your store, they're not aware of your reputation's a big deal, and people rely on you to make good recommendations, to sell them solid product that they're going to enjoy. If a couple more times, if they get something bad, there's too much other competition for them to go to, and you're going to start losing people. So it's I don't think a lot of people factor that in when they come talk to you or try to sell you something. Well, I've got to keep my reputation front of mind first. Can I sell this and know that my customers will be happy each time they buy it?
Yeah. I've never really, you vocalized it perfectly. Like, intuitively, I've kind of known that just out of habit, but I never really had it brought up in front of me, about that notion of, it's my reputation on the line too.
Right.
So no, that makes sense.
I have a reputation as how I handle you and deal with you and your business, but you have a reputation to your customers, and that, And so what we used to say on our end, if I sell you cigars and every time you get them, they're plugged or they don't draw or whatever the problem is, eventually so on my side, there's too much competition for you to choose from that you're just not going to carry me anymore, because why would I? It's not consistent. It's not reliable, because now it's affecting my reputation. So it's the same thing for you, as if you're selling somebody a cigar that's plugged or not consistent, then that starts to damage your side of things.
So let me ask you a different topic about cigars. Has Crown Heads ever, or will they consider doing a value bundle bargain kind of cigar? Because that, for us, that's a huge amount of our volume now.
Right.
And I can mention examples like Factory Smokes, Quorums, the Odysseys, Casa Garcia, Perdomo Fresco, Perdomo Fresco, the like.
Right.
Is that something that Crowd Heads wants to delve into?
We've always talked about it. So for us right now, Juarez is that value line for us.
Right.
But we've never actually talked about bundles or that sort.
Yeah, I'm talking about the $2 cigar, $2 or $3.
So every year at sales meeting, when we bring up new ideas, it's always mentioned, it's always talked about. And then I think the key problem is we don't have our own factory. So we don't have the
margins,
those margins to play with.
Yeah.
And so if we go to Ernie and say, we want to buy your seconds, well, he's already got a leg up because we're paying a little higher price for it. So it's never for us to get into that. Perdomo does it so well because they have their own factory.
Right. They're vertically integrated.
There you go. Oliva. So they definitely have the edge where I don't think we would have that competitive edge. And I don't think you could have a high price valued bundle, because that's how we would have to sell it, and I don't think it would work.
And I think, to your point, most middlemen or brand creators have that issue. Because of that, they don't have the control of that manufacturing. Therefore, they don't have that extra margin to play with.
Sure.
You don't really see that offering that. I think of Steve Saka with the Umbagog, but now that's a $10 kind of bundle cigar.
Yeah,
so it's not really competing with Factory Smoke.
Juarez and that $6.50 to $8 price point is kind of our value add.
And I think that's a fantastic value cigar. Maybe not a bundled cigar the really cheap stuff, but for the money you're paying, that's a very, very good.
And you're not paying $200 a box for it. You're not even sometimes paying $150 for the box. It's a good, and it's a solid long filler, smoke for the price point.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So let's talk about Tim Osner. So it's kind of full circle.
Yes.
With your time in CAO when it was Osner owned, and to see him come back, can you expand on Tim's involvement now?
Yeah. So they gave me my first opportunity as a sales rep with the family, and it was funny when they sold and I went to Toronto, and then Toronto sold. I go back to, at the time, Crown Heads was our offices were in the old CAO building.
Oh, the Osner owned?
Yeah, because they kept that
CAO building?
Yeah. So in the back office, John's daughter's office had tape around it and I think there was a towel underneath the door so he could smoke in his office, and it wouldn't, because it was a nonprofit corporate event arts center.
Oh yeah, he's big in the arts in Nashville, huh?
So to keep smoke, and his office also had a patio with a door, so he would leave that door open and smoke on the patio. But there was no smoking outside the office. It was his office and the patio.
Yeah.
And then we had a little area where we could ship. So yeah, and so Tarano sells. I reach out to John and say, hey, do you guys need a rep in Texas? He goes, how quick can you get to Nashville? So 2 days later, I'm flying to Nashville. I walk into the old CAO building, and there's John O'Osgener painting. So he had retired, and he loved to paint. So he had one of the old rooms at CAO. He turned into an art studio, and he had all these paintings all over the wall that he was in there. And he goes, and I walk in, and before I could say anything, he sees me, he goes, Brian, how are you doing? My hands are dirty. I'll fist bump you. and then he goes, how's your daughter Jordan? I'm like, I haven't seen you in 5 years, and I'm like,
yeah, that's awesome.
This guy's amazing. Yeah. So he shows me all the which is funny. He's painting all these Meerschaum pipes with his face on them.
Wow.
And I sit down and I interview, and they give me the job. So kind of that little circle to see Jono again was just awesome.
Yeah.
And then I see Tim, because he's running the Oz. It was called Oz of Nashville. It was a nonprofit business.
Okay.
And his mother was an educator, and what they would do is schools that lost funding for their arts program, she would bring artists from around the world to come in and work with these schools that had lost funding for their art program, and they would do art shows and fundraisers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, then Tim had only signed a 2-year non-compete. But Tim's the kind of guy that once he dives into something, he dives into something. So he was, Oz of Nashville was his baby. He was doing the whole thing.
Wow.
And then he kind of looks at everything. He's like, I miss the industry. I miss the people. And they found somebody that could run that business. And to have him back it's really cool. It's I've traveled with him a couple of times, and it's so you have John, you have Mike, and their perspective, but then to bring Tim's perspective back, it's just another
like President Emeritus coming back.
It's just
to give his
something
insight.
different, yes. Yeah. And it's another layer,
yeah.
And as you can tell, his stuff is completely different than our stuff. It's his personality, it's his family story.
Yeah,
it's him telling his family lineage and his family story, and it's just very cool to have Tim back.
So to kind of reiterate to people who don't know cigars, Chano A. Osgener, that's CAO,
his
the
initials.
That's the founder of CAO Cigars.
1968.
Okay, but he started off making humidors or pipes?
No, so he was a mechanical engineer. He was an engineer. I think he was a mechanical or electrical engineer for DuPont.
Oh wow, okay.
And he smoked Meerschaum pipes.
Okay.
So the problem with Meerschaum pipes when you smoked them back then was when the shank and the bowl got hot, it would get loose on the bit and they would swivel and sometimes swing around and maybe fall off.
Oh, okay.
So Jono, being an engineer, threaded the bit and threaded the shank of the pipe so the bit would screw in and tighten and therefore would never get loose. So Jono is at his tobacco shop buying pipe tobacco, and he pulls out his pipe, unscrews the bit to clean it while he's waiting and the guy goes, "What is that?" He goes, "It's something I engineered so the pipe doesn't get loose." He goes, "Can I order 100 of those?" And John always said, as an Armenian, you never turn down an order. So he goes, "Of course." So he hooks up with Beckler in Turkey, and starts making Meerschaum pipes. And of course, they all came in those black leather cases. So as he would sell them to tobacco stores, eventually they would be displayed with other Meerschaum pipes, but nobody could tell the threaded from the regular.
Yeah.
They said, "You need to mark your cases." He goes, "I'll put my initials on the cases, CAO." So if there was CAO on the pipe case, you knew that you were getting a threaded, with a pipe.
Did he patent that? So did he come out with the first?
I think so. Yeah, I think he did. I'm not 100% on that, but I think he did.
Well, obviously, there wasn't enough manufacturers that they were doing that,
right?
To market just that notion of the threaded. Because you're right. I've noticed a lot of meerschaum pipes over the years that have the threaded kind of tenon part to make sure it doesn't fall off from the stem, or the bowl fall off from the stem.
So he eventually did that enough that he quit his job at DuPont and he started traveling the country with pipes in the trunk. And that's why when CAO got into cigars, everybody brought them in because everybody knew Jono.
They already knew him,
They already knew him. So they did pipes, and then on top of that, they got into what's called gentleman boxes and humidors.
Okay.
So like if you had it'd be like a humidor, but for like your jewelry, your watches and rings and that kind of thing. Then they did humidors, and then I think it was 92.
Like right with the cigar boom.
The CAO Gold was first released, and that was when Tim was at USC, and he started getting involved in the business, and the whole, of course, obviously the rest is history.
Yeah.
Man, so cool. With Tim, the OFC, Osgood Family Cigars, we tell everybody that's the O in CAO.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So Tim and Eileen, they grew up, they come home from school, they'd have to go down in the basement and price pipes before they do their homework. And John was like, this row of pipes, $19.95. This row of pipes, $29.95. This row of pipes, $39.95. And they're down there pricing pipes.
That's funny. That's awesome. Man, that's so cool. Just the origin story.
And it's funny, before Google and all this, when Jono and his wife, when they got married, and she was Turkish, Jono was Armenian. So when they dated, she wouldn't let him walk next to her because Turks and Armenians did not get along.
Oh, that's right.
And he looked up, again, this is before Google and all that. He looked up what's the best city in the country to raise a family. And it was Nashville, Tennessee. So they moved from New York to Nashville, and that's where Tim and Eileen were born.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. So I thought Chano was Turkish.
No, he's Armenian.
By nationality, yeah. But that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So the whole story behind Bosphorus, which is the Bosphorus Strait that divides Europe and Asia, if a Turk and Armenian can be married for 55 years and raise a family, we can all get along over a cigar.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then this blend, what's the pro? You gave me the rundown of the profile, a little bit fuller. It's like your meatier.
Medium plus, maybe medium full, depending on your palate. But that San Andreas, you get that spice, you get that coffee, you get a little bit of that cedar on the finish. Very smooth. And there's actually broadleaf in the filler.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah. Connecticut broadleaf or some other broadleaf? They just say broadleaf.
Yeah, broadleaf. Yeah. It might be Pennsylvania, but either way, there's
still it's broadleaf. Yeah, that's cool. Well, look, we're gonna try to wrap it up. We didn't even get a chance to explore the McGee's smoked meats.
Oh yeah, we'll do that next time.
Yeah, next time. Yeah, future appearance.
You know what? We can book an event and do one, and then we can do it during the event. Yeah,
absolutely. But before we go, we have a final segment. It's a rapid fire round.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You want to do that? Called the final puff?
Let's do it.
All right. So number 1, Tabasco, Crystal, or other?
What's Crystal?
Hot sauce. So kind of hot sauce. Tabasco, Crystal, or other?
I'm going to say other. I'm a Texas boy, so salsa for me.
Salsa?
Not hot sauce. Not Tabasco.
Yeah.
Chunky hot sauce.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
Salsa.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, favorite vacation destination?
For me, it was probably Belize. I love diving.
Okay.
And
you scuba dive?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Dive in the blue hole out there in the middle of the ocean. But I do go to Alamorada every year for tarpon fishing. I do love going down there.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. Yeah, next time. Very cool. So number 3, who would you want to smoke a cigar with? Anyone, alive or deceased?
I would say my dad.
Okay.
He passed away in 2013. Quick story. My dad grew up, there was no smoking, there was no drinking. He was adamant about he would always take it every opportunity to tell you how bad cigarettes were for you. No tobacco. My brothers got caught dipping. He made them dip 5 cans in a row. So when I got hired, when I started working for a retail shop in Dallas, I had no clue I was going to tell my dad that I'm working. And then I get hired at CAO. I'm like, how am I going to tell my dad I'm a cigar rep?
Yeah.
And my dad would come over and go, hey, you got an extra cigar for me that I could? And he would sit on his patio. He would smoke half of it, and then he would leave. He would let it burn out, put it in his desk, and save it for the next day.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But we spent a vacation in Cancun on the beach, drinking beer and smoking a cigar together, which I never thought in a million years would ever do that. But yeah, my father would.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Next question. So for industry people, I kind of frame it different. What's your desert island cigar from your own company that you rep? And what's your desert island cigar for like any other company?
Okay. So Desert Island for sure is our 2016 TAA. Angels Anvil. I still think to this day that was the best cigar we've ever made.
Okay.
Over the 2014 Las Calaveras. I think that was just, it hit me perfectly everywhere. Everybody else, look, I'm going to reach on my 40th birthday. I smoked a Cuban Davidoff Dom Perignon from 1986.
Oh, the white whale.
And it was phenomenal. So if that's an option, that would be my...
Yeah. Oh, that to me is like the most legendary cigar of all time.
It was. Yeah. So I'm 55. I smoked that 15 years ago. And it was the flavor of tea and hay, and it still had some body to it. It blew me out of the water.
Man.
Yeah.
Very cool. Last question. Who would you want to see here on a future podcast as a guest?
Have you done Garrett Calhoun?
No, not yet.
You got to do Garrett just to talk sports, because he's so all over the map with his teams. Oregon, North Carolina. I mean, the guy's an idiot, but you got to have him on here just to talk sports.
Yeah, he is the sports guru, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, very good. We'll reach out to him. Hopefully he can abide. Well, Brian, thanks again for joining me today. It was fun, man.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks again. We'll see you later. All right, everyone. Take care. We'll see you until the next time.